Hello there! Today I'm here for a bit of a more chatty video than usual. Those of you who have been on my channel for a while will know that I have been doing the Faber Academy online writing a novel course. It was the first 15,000 words course. And I said when I started that I was going to do a bit of a wrap up, talk about whether I think it's a good idea for you, what I think people could benefit from it. So that's what I'm going to do today. So if you're interested in the Faber course or just writing in general, stick around and we will have a chat about it. So this was a 6-month course and I believe it cost £1,000, I want to say. I might be wrong, I can't remember. I think it was either 1,000 or 1,500. I know that's quite a big discrepancy. It does say on their website how much it was. So it was quite a lot of money, admittedly. I was able to do it because I had an inheritance and I thought it was a good way to invest in inheritance, but that is something to bear in mind. It's quite pricey. That said, compared to most of the other courses out there, this is actually quite affordable, and I think for the amount of time and the amount of things that you get out of it, it is worthwhile. You definitely do. I mean, I can't imagine anyone leaving the course without having developed quite a decent idea of what their novel is going to be about. So I think if you're really struggling to find a novel idea or pursue a novel idea, I would definitely say that it's probably worth the money, especially when you consider the market and how much you might pay elsewhere. I know Faber also do a physical course, which I think is pretty much the same meet to it. It's just that they meet once a week in a London setting instead of doing it all online, which actually it costs a lot more and it's probably less worth the money, purely because with the online course it was continual back and forth between us all, whereas with the physical course obviously you only get that once a week. So again, something worth bearing in mind. No, I wasn't skeptical when I went into the course, but I've always been a little bit skeptical of writing courses, especially like going to university and stuff for writing. I think there is a false belief that you have to do that, and actually I don't think you do, and that is something that I very much talk about a lot, is the fact that I think a lot of people fool themselves into thinking that, you know, you have to have proper teaching to be a writer, and I don't think that's the case. I think the best learning that you can do as a writer is reading and also listening to other authors. Obviously a classroom setting is useful again in terms of that it helps you to focus on your novel, but I think especially with the Faber course, what I found is if you're expecting to go into this course to learn how to write effectively, it's not going to teach you that. I don't think any course could teach you that. I think in that case your best hope really is to read as much as you can and take the lessons from that. But this course, which leads me on nicely to the fact that this course is very much, I think, for people who are already quite confident writers. I wasn't sure what the skill level was going to be like, and I was really impressed actually. Everyone was fantastic. I loved one's stories and everyone was so skillful with their language. So I think it's definitely a course that is perhaps better for somebody who is already a good writer or a sort of confident writer, and just need to have that extra push to actually get a novel. It doesn't really matter. I think ideally you should start this with no novel. There were people who had already started their novels, there were people who had already written their novels and were just reworking, but I think you'd get the most out of this probably if you haven't started a novel yet. I purposefully put off starting mine. Week's lessons were things like pitching your story, so building an idea of what your story's about, thinking about the viewpoint of your story and trying around that. So purely from a point of view of that kind of thing and helping you to understand your story, I think it would be really irritating and you would almost not get enough out of that if you already had a novel, because you would be reluctant to change it even if you realised that it wasn't working. I overall thoroughly enjoyed the course. I think the best thing about it for me, which is perhaps not something that I was expecting, is the fact that it's definitely you and your classmates that really help each other, which I suppose anyone who's done an official course before will already know. So the tutor is there and you do have a Skype call with your tutor. She gives you one feedback on your first chapter, I think it is, and then you have another optional Skype call, and then she gives you the final feedback on your 15,000, which we're waiting on at the moment, so that happens after the course is over. But every 2 weeks you upload for your classmates and you and your classmates critique each other's work. I think I was really lucky in that my group was particularly fantastic for feedback. We were all quite generous with our feedback and our time, which was so useful. Ideally, you only have to critique 3 of your fellow classmates, but I think most of us were pretty much exceeding that every single week and reading as much as we could, because it's also useful to read other people's stuff, and critiquing really helps you look at your own work with a critical eye, and obviously it's really useful to get that feedback from other people. So it was definitely the class environment that was most useful for me, although the tutor feedback was a helpful little hint and a push, and also having the challenges. Admittedly, towards the end of the course I found that the challenges weren't helping me because they were kind of distracting me from my writing, and I had kind of cheated and gone ahead in my book by that point, so I was just focusing on ploughing ahead. I think the course definitely starts to wind down at the perfect time, because it's at the time where you no longer need to take baby steps. I mean, you usually uploaded 1,000 words every 2 weeks, so it's quite a manageable workload really. But then the course starts winding down, and sort of the side challenges, like things like having to interview people, doing little rewriting challenges and things like that, they kind of peter off, which I was actually ready for. I think at one point in the course, probably about 4 months in, I was really thinking, oh, you know, I'm going to be really sad when this is over. But actually, by the end of the 6 months, I think I was ready for it to be over, and I think I'm definitely ready to move forward with my novel. Everyone has, of course, had different outcomes. There are people in my group, really brave people, who have got to the end of the course and said their novel's not working, and they want to completely restart for the 15,000 word submission, and they have done that, and I think that's so brave. And also, it's not, I don't think that that means that the course was a waste, because they had to write what they wrote in order to reach that conclusion. There were people who changed things along the way. There were people who completely started rewriting halfway through. So it's not a set thing. You don't have to stick with what you're doing if you're not happy with it. And if you're ever short on the word count or anything like that, there's no repercussions, there's no pressure. It's all round a fantastic course. I think, as I say, it's not a structured, we're going to teach you how to write course, and if you want that, you're not going to get that. However, if you are just in the market for something that can help you to write your novel, help you to get to a satisfactory stage with your novel, then this is definitely for you. I have found it really useful just in terms of cementing my idea, helping me have realizations to keep my idea moving forward. I have started a few novels in my time. I have finished one middle grade novel, which I finished last year. But not that middle grade is easier to write, because it's not at all, but it is a shorter piece of work, so I found that was easier for me for my first novel, because I didn't have to worry about such a large plot, so it was easier for me to see everything that was going to happen in that novel, much like I would in a short story. However, I've never managed to hold on to the unwieldy thing that can be an adult novel. However, I feel like I've really done that in this course. I think I wouldn't have got to this stage if it weren't for having the course behind me. So it's definitely something I would recommend. As I say, I think definitely one for more advanced writers, or people who have perhaps a seed of an idea in their minds but don't quite know how to go about it. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in, I will link all of the details down below. Another thing perhaps worth mentioning now that the course is over is that once you have finished your online Faber course, you have access to an online alumni area, which is basically an area, it's a chat on the Faber website where everybody, all past students, can talk and share work and get critiques. Admittedly, not many people seem to use it, but what is really interesting is that sometimes they have events, so it's live chats with authors. We've been to one with an author and one with a manager, I think, in one of the independent publishing houses, and that was really interesting. And I think they also have interviews with agents, so it is something that ultimately can reach connections for you. With the woman who worked for an independent publisher, for example, gave us all her personal email and urged us all to send her submissions, so that was really useful, and I've written that down and will be using that at some stage in the future. And also there is a Faber book, effectively an anthology, where they put together 3 chapters of whoever submits from the course. I don't know how that works yet. We haven't got to that stage. I don't know how you would submit to that, but that is an option. So it does kind of get you connections, it gets your foot in the door, and also just being able to say that you've done the Faber Academy course, I think is a major help when you're applying for agents and things like that. So again, something worth thinking about. As I say, I'll link all the information down below. Check it out if you're at all interested, and let me know if you have done any similar courses and how you found them, and I'll see you next time. Bye.